was like there, it's like, I feel like 1988, 1989. were
So then getting into it in
yeah,
that way and
yeah.
having that reverence for New York hardcore, getting on Revelation for Texas, that must have been a big deal for you.
Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah. Definitely,
Gotcha.
for sure.
Now, I always seem to remember this, and I probably remember it wrong. Were you guys originally going to be called Plain or something like that, or was that like?
I mean, if there was so plain going back to the history of plain, that was, I think, yeah, that was the first title of the Fountainhead record, and we ended up changing it to Drain,
Okay.
like at 0 hour, to like last minute. We're like, no, we're not gonna. It's not plain. We're not plain. It's Drain, and then like some could happen with some artwork, and it like made sense, um, and I think like Texas kind of got to. I mean, Texas was an idea for many, many, many. I would probably kind of years before it became like an actual thing. Um,
Is that just because you guys were all in other bands? Like you had Chris in 108, Norm was doing Shelter and other stuff like that, and then
yeah, like so Texas Fountainhead. Norm was in Fountainhead, and Norm, it was he was like living in on one part of Long Island, and we were practicing on another part of Long Island, and I was driving, and I think selfishly enough, I was just like, I also knew like Norm was like really getting into the Christian thing, and he kept on going, I'm moving into with the Christians, I'm going on tour with 108, like he was like, I'm doing something with that, and so we kind of we always were very apprehensive of like, well, okay, well, is he going to bail on us, or he is going to bail on us, but just when? And there was just like one day that I was just like, oh, I just don't feel like going to pick him up, and we practiced and it sounded fine. And then like we were just like, and then it just kind of came up like, well, is he gonna join Jahari Christians and run away? And we were like, probably. And like that's kind of what the plan is, and that was his plan all along, and that's what he did do. But so it wasn't really like, fuck you, you suck. It wasn't like, it just was like, there was just like that one opportunity where it's like, I just don't feel like going 45 minutes that way. They go 45 minutes that way. They go back for 45 minutes that way. They go back this way in my little Volkswagen Bug, you know,
right.
for that one day. And yeah, it just kind of led to that thing. And I think that story is probably even like more involved than it had to be. But in that, I remember like, and okay, so it's starting to click a little bit more. So I think he was already talking about leaving to go on tour with Resurrection. I think that was it, and because he used my guitar for that whole tour, and so I think that was the thing. I was like, listen, like let Fountainhead do its thing. We're gonna play like, and when you come back from the tour at Resurrection, we'll start a band with Chris Daly. And that was like the whole thing. Like, we're just going to start a band with Chris Daly, and then that we always had these hypothetical singers that we always thought that we would have, and then Chris, Norman, and I played once or twice for like 2 hours at like a monthly or like an hourly rehearsal space, like with like plug-in gear that's already there. Don't think any of that music ever became Texas songs. And then we were just always like, kind of like, oh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And then the Equal Vision Loft was a thing on 24th Street, 24th Street, like 6th Avenue. And like a bunch of people lived there, Steve and Kate, and then Norman lived there, and Tim Owen and Lenny Zimpkis. It was like it's just like a house of many all-stars, you know, and so we hung out there all the time, and we were all there one day, and Steve's like office desk was out in the open, and they had like all the Equal Vision records, and you know, they had some just the stuff, some beads for sale somewhere in the corner, you know, and that was, so everyone was always hanging out. We were all like hanging out, and Steve, you know, Steve was always kind of like the leader, and like, you know, he was always like telling us stuff and telling us stories, but you know, phone would be ringing, he would talk on the phone, he'd hang up like, oh, that was this guy, that guy. So we picked up the phone, and he's like, oh, and it got like a kind of like a silence, and he's like, oh, okay, really? And he's like, oh, well, why don't you just join Norman and Scott's band? Why don't you come down here and be in their band? They need a singer. And he's like, talk to Norm. And they got on. He like talked. You know, he throws, you know, the phone, and that was Garrett. Like he kicked them out, and they kicked him out, or he quit Popper. I don't remember that how long ago it was. It was either or. It doesn't really matter, I guess. And he wanted to do something, and like right away, and he was like, I'll come down, and like it seemed like, I feel like it was like that weekend or the next weekend, we got my 1983 Subaru Outback, or whatever it was, GL wagon, was on an Outback, and drove out to Chris Daly's, you know, parents' house, and set up in the garage, and like we wrote the like EP like that day at the place, and you know,
How
Garrett
soon after that are you recording with Brian McTurnan? Like that
6 months, very soon, yeah.
Because I
that
seem
was
to
like,
remember
yeah,
I was
that
out
was just
there.
yeah, like it was like that was just supposed to be a demo for us. Like, hey, Brian McTurnan has his stuff in his garage, in his basement in Boston. He moved to Boston. He has like this recording stuff. Like, let's go there and check it out. You know, like, okay, we can stay at his house. So, you know, Pete Riley lives there, and you know, it's like cool, like, you know, and like we just kind of went up there not knowing anything, just really just, you know, naive, thinking that like maybe we would have like something we could listen to and be like, this is cool, or like maybe we could play for like, you know, the guys at Jade Tree, and the guys, you know, the other record labels around, like maybe send it to Revelation. See, like, you know, like we really had no idea. Like that was like so early on. And
Well, I remember I was talking with you guys. Well, I remember talking with Chris Daly when I was out there with Farside and Shades Apart. And Chris was like really excited about the band. And then literally it was like 3 or 4 months later, Todd came to pick me up because I'd been living in San Francisco with Brian Chu and his sister. Todd came to pick me up, and he had from Norm, he had the demo, or what became the 7-inch. I mean, so it was super duper fast. But then I remember it went from, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the way that it looked to me. It was like, hey, you guys were doing this band that you were really excited about. You recorded this thing, and then suddenly it went from, you guys, maybe we'll get on this label, to, well, what label do you want to be on? Is that kind of?
Yes and no. Like it was like, I mean, it was a hard decision for us to make, because I think like, you know, I mean, I'll just, the 3 labels that I can remember us like just really just tossing up was Art Monk Construction.
Yeah.
You know, we loved Eric, and we loved the bands that they like worked with. We thought they were so cool, and just to, you know, be aligned with like, you know, bands like that was like really, you know, rad for us. And then Jade Tree was starting to do their thing, and we, you know, Tim and Darren are still, you know, friends for life, you know. So like that was like a thing. And
like
then
you and me.
Yeah, and I think like that was kind of like the toss up, like, yeah, exactly, like we were like, oh, Jade Tree, Art Monk, Jade Tree, Art Monk, Jade Tree, Art Monk, and then here comes Jordan, and like it was like Revelation is one, and then it was like, whoa, wait a second, like that's really something, wow, you know. And that was something like, yeah, this is like a legacy. This is like, you know, something that just we kind of felt like